Hello there. I hope this past week was kind to you and brought you little pockets of energy that you can use for making some beautiful art with me today. But if you're feeling a bit low on energy or you don't have much time for art, this quick and easy 10-minute study of gum blossoms is a perfect way to get in some precious art time. And as we're painting, I'll share lots of my time and energy saving tips. To save ourselves some time and energy, we're going to pre-mix our colors. So I'm going to take some of the lemon and mix together a little bit of phthalo blue. That will give us a nice green. And I'm just looking at the reference picture for help to see which colors would be useful to mix beforehand. So we definitely need a green, and we need a darker color to go in the background. So we might take some of that phthalo blue and a tiny amount of black. Be careful because black's quite overpowering. And we'll mix those two together to get a nice dark shade. And then we can take some of that dark mix, add some white to it, and then that might give us a nice color for the background. And maybe some other parts. This is just a few colors just to start with. We can always add to them as we go along. And it doesn't take long to do this, but it does save energy as we go along. Painting takes a lot of energy, and managing and pacing is important because the more energy you save at the beginning, the more energy you have left for brush strokes and for painting later on. You can save even more energy by placing your palette on your hand dominant side so you don't have to stretch over your body to reach it. Paper is easier to hold than canvas, and it's lighter, so I like to do these small sketches on some toned paper, but you can sketch on any surface that you prefer. So I'm using some diluted ivory black to sketch out some simple shapes. I'm looking for the easiest shapes I can find, and I'm looking at the blossoms and I see little triangles on the top, and then the little blossom part, I'm not going to paint every little line in. I'm just going to put an indication of where I'd like the blossom to end and begin. Just a little rough sketch, only a couple of minutes to do this, but it will give us some guidelines to paint towards later on. So now that we've done our sketch, we can go straight in and paint in the background. And I'm taking that blue-gray color that we made at the beginning, and I'm going to first put that bluish color in, and then I'll slowly add in little bits of green, little bits of the darker shades here and there, just to give the impression of some foliage in the background. And we're putting the background on first because these blossoms are quite fluffy and soft, and we need to work them into a wet background to make it look fluffy. So we can take a nice light green now. We can block in the top of the blossoms and the stems. And I'm going to leave a little gap on the left-hand side of the blossom at the top because I want to leave space for the highlights there. So we can mix together a little yellow and white, and we can use the photo as a reference just to block in the light parts of the blossom at the top. And then also we could take some of that darker shade and put in some of the shadowed areas, just looking at the reference as a guide. Now I'm going to take a soft, clean, dry brush here, and I'm just going to work the light and the middle and the dark tones together, just softly blending them together to make it look more 3D. I'm using a bristle brush here to paint the blossoms, but you could use an old scruffy brush if you like. The scruffier the brush, the better for something like this. Now I've mixed together a little bit of white with a tiny amount of yellow to make a lightish yellow color, and I've diluted it a little so it's quite watery. And then just using very quick brush strokes in the direction of the way the flower would grow, I'm just putting in the little, almost like little stripes next to each other. And I'm using very quick brush strokes because I want it to look spontaneous and fluffy. Now we want to make these little fluffy blossoms look like they've got some kind of shape, so we're going to add little shadowed areas, and I just took a little bit of that bluish color, that sort of grayish blue color, and just put a few stripes here and there at the top of the blossom, and then work your way down. And then we can take some pure white and add a few highlights here and there. And now for a little fun finishing touch. We can take some diluted white paint and we can gently sprinkle some little splashes here and there at the bottom of each blossom to indicate some pollen or things flying around. And there we go. Not bad for a 10-minute sketch, is it? Even small, low-effort projects like this one count as art. And you can think of it as good practice for bigger pieces when you have more energy. Thank you so much for watching and for following along and for subscribing. If you're feeling inspired, you might want to try these tutorials too. And I'll see you in the next video.